I'm Lily. Today I'm gonna tell you some stories. There was a little girl named Emily who loved collecting dolls. She had all kinds of dolls, from vintage to modern, and she cherished them as if they were her own children. One day, Emily's parents went out for a date night and left her home alone with her dolls. She spent the night playing with them, but as it got late, she decided to go to bed. As she was drifting off to sleep, she heard a strange noise coming from her doll collection. She dismissed it as her imagination and closed her eyes. But the noise grew louder and louder until she couldn't ignore it anymore. Emily opened her eyes and saw that her dolls were moving on their own. They were crawling towards her bed, their tiny hands reaching out to grab her. She tried to scream, but no sound came out of her mouth. She was frozen with fear as the dolls climbed onto her bed and started to surround her. Their faces twisted into menacing grins as they closed in on her. Emily tried to fight them off, but they were too strong. In the morning, Emily's parents returned home to find their daughter lying in bed, lifeless. Her dolls were scattered around the room, their eyes watching them with an eerie gaze. From that day on, no one wanted to play with dolls again, for fear that they too would come to life and seek their revenge on the living. There was a little girl named Lucy who loved dolls. She had a large collection of them, and she loved to play with them every day. Her favorite doll was a beautiful porcelain doll that her grandmother had given her. The doll had long blonde hair and bright blue eyes, and Lucy loved to brush her hair and dress her up in different outfits. One day, Lucy was playing with her dolls in her room when she heard a strange noise coming from the closet. It sounded like something was tapping on the door. Lucy was a little scared, but she didn't want to stop playing with her dolls, so she ignored the noise and kept playing. But the tapping sound continued, getting louder and more insistent. Lucy finally decided to investigate, and she opened the closet door. To her horror, she saw that the porcelain doll her grandmother had given her was no longer sitting on the shelf where she had left it. Instead, the doll was standing in a corner of the closet, staring at her with its bright blue eyes. Lucy was terrified. She tried to run out of the room, but the doll seemed to be following her. She could hear its tiny footsteps behind her as she ran down the hallway. Finally, she reached the living room and collapsed on the couch, gasping for breath. As she sat there, trying to calm down, she heard a faint whispering sound. It sounded like someone was saying her name. Lucy looked around the room, but she didn't see anyone. Then, she noticed that the porcelain doll was sitting on the coffee table in front of her. Its mouth was moving, and Lucy could hear it whispering her name. Lucy screamed and ran out of the house. She never went back into her room again. From that day on, she was too scared to play with dolls. And every time she saw a porcelain doll, she would feel a shiver run down her spine, remembering the terrifying experience she had with her favorite doll. There was a little girl named Anna who loved playing with dolls. She had a collection of antique dolls that were passed down from her great-grandmother. Anna cherished her dolls and would spend hours brushing their hair and dressing them up in different outfits. One night, Anna woke up to the sound of her dolls whispering. She thought it was strange, but dismissed it as her imagination. However, the whispering continued every night, and it started to sound like the dolls were talking to each other. One day, Anna came back from school to find her room in disarray. Her dolls were scattered all over the floor, and their clothes were torn apart. Anna was shocked and scared, but she couldn't understand how it happened. That night, Anna heard a loud thump coming from her room. She slowly opened the door and saw that her dolls had moved from their usual spot on the shelf and were now arranged in a circle on the floor. Anna felt a chill run down her spine as she noticed that the dolls' eyes were all staring directly at her. The whispering continued, but this time it was louder and more menacing. Anna tried to run out of the room, but the door slammed shut, trapping her inside. Suddenly, the dolls began to move on their own, their limbs jerking unnaturally as they crawled towards Anna. She screamed for help, but no one came. The dolls surrounded Anna, their lifeless eyes filled with malice. Anna felt their cold, plastic hands wrapping around her neck, choking her. She gasped for air as the dolls whispered in unison, "You belong to us now." The next morning, Anna's parents found her lifeless body in her room, surrounded by her antique dolls. From that day on, nobody dared to enter Anna's room, and the dolls remained untouched, watching silently as they claimed another victim.